All right, so let's start this podcast with some amazing, amazing feedback. I have received a feedback from Rhonda. Rhonda, your letter to me brought me tears. When you said that jump have literally changed your life, it changed mine. I did not know you were listening. I did not know how many of you guys have been blessed. So that truly, truly blessed me that this podcast was there for you when you need it. I really appreciate that. And the best thing that I love what you wrote about it is that today I found the answer. I am going to stay at the plan A because failure is not an option. That's right, Rhoda. Failure is not an option for you, and I'm so proud of you.
Jump, you're ready now. Jump, the sky's the limit. Jump, jump, jump. Leave it all behind and jump. Just go for it. Jump, if you can dream it. Jump, jump, jump. Together we can do all things.
So the interview today is with David Spencer. David is an incredible artist, have done amazing books, and now he has his own collection, Huggie and Sticky. And I'm excited to just bring him to the show just because of the joy that he has as living as an artist. And one of the things that call also my attention is how that he found his niche, how to get a lot of work. And in this podcast, he teaches us how he did it and how it's possible for you to do. You just have to really jump and pursue the things that you wanted to pursue with fire, with the intensity and really focus. David, thank you so much for being here. Let's get into the show. Welcome, David Spencer, to Jump.
Hello, how are you? What's going on?
Well, I'm so excited to have you here in the show. I think this is going to be a great show.
Oh, it's going to be rad.
This is the first time I get a real awesome, famous artist.
Yeah. My kids don't think so. It was like, that's just bad.
I'll send them a letter. They are so cute. How old are they?
Oh, my kids are 4 and almost 8. My one's gonna be 8 in like 5 days or something like that.
Oh my gosh, both of those ages, they like to talk a lot.
Oh yeah, it's a good time. It's a real good time actually. Like I get a lot from them. It's been a fun little journey for all that. Just being a dad, also doing what I do. It's fun to be like, hey, here's the thing that I'm working on, and they're like, like they're constantly like, why'd you do that? What's going on there? That's not what a rhinoceros looks like. Stuff like that.
They correct you. It's like, let's change things here, Dad.
Yeah, I draw real silly. Like I don't do just like the one thing. I do it like all like kind of weird and So, they'll always be like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, well, it's because it's fun for me to make his tail all squiggly and stuff like that. So
that's so cool. No, I love that you have, I look at your things. I love that you have this like just really fun personality, and we can see that through your drawings. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is a character. Look, how many dogs do you have?
Oh my God, can you hear? Yeah, I have my headphones in, so I can't hear you. I just have 2, and they just bark at everything that walks by the house. They're like, what are you doing here? They just happen to be right above me right now, so it's...
That's so cool. No worries about that. All right, David. So Jump is a podcast for creators, entrepreneurs, people that needs to get inspired to jump to the life they always wanted to have. Mm-hmm. So you as an artist, take us back. How was for you growing up as a creator?
Well, I always used to draw in the car all the time. My mom used to take us on really, really long car rides because my sister and I used to both be in like karate lessons, which I wasn't into, but like my mom just like, like all parents are like, go to the thing. And you're like, all right. And then you just kind of like do that thing, but we were in the car for so long because we went on all these like really far away like competitions and stuff like that. So I used to just draw like Ninja Turtles and like just all these like fun stuff that I thought was cool. Like I remember the first piece of art I ever sold was like all the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This lady wanted to buy it for me at like the doctor's office for $1. And I was just like, and I was like, okay, I guess you can have, I really wanted it, but she seemed really excited about it. So I sold it to her. It's just been like a thing that I've always done in the background. And I didn't even go to school for it. Like, illustration was just something I did for fun. Like art in general is just something I did for fun. And I never saw it as a career. And I didn't even know, like, as far as children's books goes, like I didn't even have kids at that time. So like, it wasn't even on my spectrum of.
You didn't know they exist.
Well, yeah, it's just like, they're not doing that. I'm 20. What are you talking about? Like I was into like Spawn comics and, like stuff like that. So I just, I did all this like cool, just Batman and Spider-Man. Those are my jams, but like that's really not where my style was like heading towards. Really, it definitely influenced my style, which was really cool. So I have that like kind of melding of like I do children's art, but I also kind of have this like extreme comic like from perspective to like the way I do the art, which is like the pen and ink to color. So it's like all the layers that I kind of do to create what I'm finally going for, and the way I can kind of like I draw for kids sometimes, and I'll draw like Batman. Like I'll draw like a quick Batman, and it's fun because they'll be like, "Oh my god, like that's so fun!" You're like, "Right, no big deal." So yeah, I've been just kind of like finding all this stuff up as I go along. Like right when when I got into college, I went for graphic design. So I did that for a while because I was like, I don't know what to do with. I draw, but it's just a hobby, so I'll go for graphic design because that seems like a career as opposed to just like doodling. So I was like, I'll just do that instead. So I went to college, and then I took a couple of illustrations here and there, but I never thought of it like to do anything because even like as a career, like it just seemed like there was either like you go to Pixar or you just don't do it at all or something like that. I don't know. It felt still like out of reach. And so I just kind of doodled. I came up with a couple of comic ideas while I was in college, and I kind of like doodled with them. But then really about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer now, I can't even tell at this point, I started like really sitting down and just like drawing. And actually where it all sparked from is I got a really cool job that was basically like kind of fed in my creativity a little more because I kind of had this like sandbox design job where I could kind of like create. And the more I was creating, the more I was thinking of other stuff outside of what I was creating to like create more of that was like kind of specific to what I was doing. And then my wife basically was at that same time, like her good friend were like, hey, like tonight we're going to go watch this show. So I'm going to leave the house. And I'm like, cool. So I just hang out. I think I had one kid at that time. Or no, we had both of them, but she was real little. But yeah, so we had the kids, and then she was gone for the night, and I was like, you know what, tonight's gonna be my art night. Like I'm just gonna start to finish a piece of art, and I would just finish it out, and then that night I would post it on Facebook. And so I posted one on Facebook, and people were like, oh, I really like that. So the next Thursday I would do another one, and then the next Thursday I would do another one, and then it just like slowly but surely, then people would be like, hey, like I'd really like you to do one for my kid. Like, can you do one of my kid? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I do one of those, and I just kept like doing more and more art. And then eventually I just had this huge like pile of, art that I was doing.
Wow.
Which was a whole lot of fun. And then, but before that, sorry, I skipped a spot. No. I made a book for my son called Charlie Goes to Bed, because when I was like, you know what, I can draw. I have this kid. I was like, it'd be really cool to draw a book about my kid. I think a lot of people have this like thought they can do this. And, but I was like, I have every tool available to me to do this. So I wrote a book and I drew it. And basically that's where I started like trying to like push out my art, and be like, hey, like I have this published book, and, I had no knowledge of the publishing industry or how many people had a book out there. So it was basically like real hard for me to just be like, I think I contacted like 100 agents with my book, and I got 100 rejections. And it was just kind of like, I had my little list of like all the people, and I was scratching them off one by one. We're like, all right, going down the list. And then I ended up, the first person I found, I didn't go with him right away because I was like, oh, like I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't send him an inquiry right away. But then I was just kind of going, you know what, I'm going to send it to him. And I sent it to him. And then like he got back to me and was like, hey, he's like, maybe not this book, but would you be interested in doing being an artist for other authors. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then he wanted me to like make more art. And then I was just like, I kind of organically already started doing that. Like I was saying, it just started building this huge pantheon of like a catalog for myself. So, it's like, yeah, sure. So I just piled all this stuff together. He's like, oh, that's great. And then, yeah, it's just been like spinning out of control from there. I kind of forgot about the whole, like me having an agent thing and like doing that whole thing, and just started focusing really just on drawing, because it was so much fun just to be like, I would make a piece of art for somebody's family and be like, here you go. And they'd be like, oh my God, so cool. Because I would always feel like, they'd be like, oh, my husband, I want a gift for him. And he's really into Star Wars. Could you draw us as like Jedis? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they'd be like, oh my God, it's so cool. So I got so much out of that, just like being part of that, like being part of their family, essentially, like making something that they would hang in their house in such a big way. And then, so I was just kind of turning off of that. And then out of nowhere, he's like, hey, he's like, I have this guy named Drew DeWalt, and he wants to do a book with you. Is that cool? And I didn't really even know who he was, and I was just like, yeah, sure, that sounds awesome. Like, I'm cool to do a book. And then I looked him up afterwards. I was like, oh, this is like Jay the Krantz Quit guy. Cool, awesome. Like, yeah, I'll do a book with this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, hey, do you want to go on tour with Bruce Springsteen? Yeah, sure, that sounds awesome. I'll show up. Yeah, so that ended up being just like I had, and it was fun to be like. When I finally was able to like let people know that I had a book, they'd be like, "Oh, like you're doing a book," and I'd be like, "Yeah, yeah." And they're like, "Who with?" And I'm like, "Drew DeWalt." And they're like, "What? Stop the fun! What are you talking about? That's awesome!" And, but mainly like if I run into like kindergarten teachers, their heads would explode and it'd be like, just knocking out of the park.
It's like, are you real? Are you real? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really fun, and so I just kind of had this like. I actually told him when we were just chatting and everything, I was just like, I hope your coattails are strong, because I'm holding on tight. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it was different. It was so crazy, like the way you do publishing. You have this thought in your head where basically like you sit in a war room with the author, and you just draw it all out, and he tells you everything, and you shoot ideas back and forth, and that's not it at all. I literally was given like a manuscript, and they go like, what do you think this is? So I came up with these characters like out of like thin air. I'd be like, I think this is what this character looks like. Like it was the Epic Adventures of Huggie and Stick. So basically it was like, okay, I have this grumpy stuffed bunny, and then I have this literal stick, like an actual stick, and they're just like going on an adventure together. And I'm like, all right, what does Huggie look like? What does Stick look like? And I'm just like drawing them out. And I thought it'd be so much harder. Like I thought I'd have to give them like 30 different designs. I was like, how do you like these? They're like, they're great. And I was like, really? All right, cool.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then they're it was like, give us some page design, like what you're thinking as far as the flow goes. So I drew it all out. I was like, oh, here it is. They're like, great. I'm like, oh, cool. All right, down. I got this down. So
I think I like this.
Yeah,
I think I can do this more times, right?
Yeah. And then the art director and me were like just sending cat memes back to each other and stuff like that. So it was super chill, super awesome. It was like right up my alley, because I've never been professional by any means. Like I'm just kind of like, hey, what's going on? Like, I yell in the hall and make disruptions at my work now. So I just kind of, I'm there to act a fool, and it's kind of people expect it of me. So when I'm quiet, they're like, are you okay?
Yes, because the way that, like, I totally expect, like, when I saw your art, I was like, the title of this podcast is How to Have Fun at Work, because I'm telling you, that was you all over. Like, your drawings are just like, it's so much fun. I was like, oh my gosh, my son's gonna love this. I need to buy this.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, like, I'm very blessed in the fact that I can just kind of do a thing that I'm not like that I'm excited to do, but also I'm excited to figure out what comes of it. Like I look at something and I'm like, all right, I should draw Spider-Man. That'd be really cool. I'm like, what would my Spider-Man look like? Like it's just cool to kind of be like, because I kind of don't know like what a lot of these things are going to end up looking like.
Yes.
Until I start drawing it, and then I'll start figuring out the shapes and be like, oh, okay. And a lot of that might not be because I'm still kind of like learning this whole thing, and obviously I've been doing it for a long time, but like, it's just like, still it's exciting for me to do it and figure out where the end part is. Oh, it's fun. And I present to kids and stuff, and it's just so cool for them to like flip through my art and them just be like, how do you even do that? That's impossible. Like, so it's just, I'm like, thank you.
Well, so, you say, that was nothing. That was really easy.
Yeah, it's about a 5-minute job.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's really cool. I'm very lucky to have the fan base, which is like just kids, and kids are just so full of energy, and they're so excited and fun and cool. Like, and it's fun every once in a while because you run into like an adult who's like, oh my God, like this is so cool. So that's always really exciting when you get like the both ends of it. I know that my, what was it? What happened? I had a show once and I had all my art sitting there, and there was this, I think he was like 58-year-old guy. He was just sitting there and he's just looking at my art, and he's just like every couple like seconds, just like, oh gosh, that's nice. Like he was just like giggling at all the like different art, just like going through it. It just filled me with joy. And then, I get little kids like, oh my God, like this one girl sat there for like 20 minutes. She only had $10. And my prints were like $10. And she was just like sitting there with two of them for like 20 minutes, just like, I want. And I was like, honey, if you want them so bad, just take them both. I'm proud that I'm so excited that you want them. Like it's just cool to be part of this. I mean, like, it's nothing off me.
Yes. Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. So it's been a fun ride for sure.
So you a father, you have 2 kids. How did you were already told a little bit that you have your date that you do art. Do you still do that? Do you have a day specific for art?
Actually, I just started. I have a full-time job still, so I do product design during the day. But I actually have Monday that I cut out of the week for my work week, and I fully focus on art on Monday for sure. But my usual jam was that I would work in the day, do family stuff at night. Kids go to bed. I work till like 3 a.m. or whatever, which I still do for sure. So, but basically I work from 9 to 3, just kind of do that. And I wake up at 6. It's just like my body just doesn't really need sleep that much. So, and it's able to function pretty well. Actually, like I find myself when I get too much sleep, I actually am more tired, but who knows, maybe it'll fall down on me at some point. But as of right now, I feel fine.
Wow. You have all this energy. It's just tremendous. That's incredible.
So, but the art day just kind of started. I was actually, obviously, like I was working today, just kind of getting stuff out and making things happen. So I'm just trying to really focus in on what I want to do as far as like more. I have this writer friend who we just kind of connected, and we're trying to get like we're still trying to figure out what it is. Like he's a really good writer, and he's worked for what was he telling me? He worked on stuff on the Cartoon Network and all this stuff. So he's trying to get like his next thing. And he was telling me, he was like, I've been doing this for so long. He's like, I'm a little burnt out. He's like, but I want to get inspired again. And I was like, let's do this, man. Like, I was like, if anybody's going to inspire you, I'm going to get it going. So,
hey, I have a great idea. We should all go camping.
Yeah. Oh my God. Anything will uninspire me more.
This is the next question I was going to ask is, how do you use your imagination? Like, it's like, how do you get to like, okay, this is what I want? Do you have to start doing to then develop? Or do you look at something and say, oh, I know what to do?
It would be a combination. For the most part, I just start drawing. Like I go, every once in a while, I have like it'd be cool. Like a giraffe wearing a coat, like that's usually not where it's usually like, I like that giraffe head. I'll put a little parka around him, long neck, bubble coat. That's hilarious. Like in the snow, like it has to like come out of that. Like it's pretty rare that like I find a thing and I know I want to draw it. Like I really just have to build and then go from there. Unless I just think of something that's super funny. But I remember when Stan Lee passed away, I did a piece about him. I did like a drawing like that night, like start to finish, and so I did it, and then, but like I started drawing it for a while, and I just hated it, and I threw it away, and I literally, the one that ended up being took me about like 20 minutes to draw. It was like, it's like, oh, there it is, like I finally found it. So you just have to like strip apart the layers and then like find what you're looking at. But for the most part, it's just I just find it out on the paper. I that's how I've always drawn, so that's where my inspiration comes from, and just like falls out of my head in a way. I don't know how other people work, but mine tends to be like this. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long. Sometimes I can come up with something like immediately and finish it, and then sometimes like I have no idea what I'm doing, or like a lot of the times with the commissions that I do for the family, like I get so in my head about it because I'll be like, oh, I got to make sure this is perfect. Like I know they said they're into dentistry and they like dinosaurs, so I got to figure out what that is. So sometimes it's like trying to find it. And the thing I always have to remember in the back of my head is I'm gonna get there eventually. Like because I always get there eventually. Like I always find a landing point, no matter what. Like I never like have to go back to the family and be like, couldn't figure it out. Sorry. Like that's never had to happen. I can always just jump in and I'll eventually peel it back within that night that I'm working on it. So
that's amazing.
Even if it's just the pencil part, but I try to at least get to like the inking by the end of like a session or something like that. Cause it makes me feel like more balanced throughout the day.
Yeah.
Cause if I get too hung up on stuff, I get stressed out that I haven't been like producing enough things. Like, I want to put output out because it makes me feel like whole when I'm like, oh, I finished a piece. I finished another piece,
Right.
So.
Right. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Do you see yourself creating stories too?
Yes. Actually, I have stuff that I'm working on right now that I'm trying to like build. What I always do is I always try to like have one project that I have in the back of my mind that I can always kind of think of. But right now I have one that I want to create that was built off of just like listening to another story and being like, oh, that's cool. And then like, just like rolling it into something that I have kind of like that it's exciting to me. Like, and every time I think of a new part of it, it excites me about it more. And then, just this last, Inktober, which is like you ink a thing, like each day I started doing these little characters and stuff like that. It was really cool to come up with like a new character every day and be like, oh, this is really cool. And then I would kind of weave them into the story and be like, oh, this is so much cooler. So I want it to be like 15-year-old me again, where I can just be like, oh, like that's really exciting. The hardest part for me, like with writing and things like that is since it doesn't really come naturally to me, I don't really know how to like properly do it. Like I'm a terrible speller and I really like there would have to be a lot of finesse on that end, but
welcome to the club. Welcome to that.
I know, but I'm really good at like telling interesting, like weaving tales and stuff like that. And like thinking of stuff, that I personally think would be really interesting. And like, is kind of like altered in a way where, I don't know. It's just I feel confident in that part. I'm never confident in like the all right, let's get it on paper and stuff like that.
Right. It's just
really structure and things like that.
No, you have your strengths though.
Yeah.
You have your strengths.
Yeah. So I was gonna do it like a half illustrated because I was originally just gonna write a book, and then I was just like, you know what? I couldn't stop drawing these characters, and I was like, let's just do both. Like not really, not like a graphic novel, but like where it'd almost be like pictures every a couple pages or whatever, or just something like that, where I can make it what I wanted to make it, and then with the tone that I want it, and then not feel like, oh, this would be so much cooler if I could really show them what I'm thinking of right now. Even though a lot of like books and stuff, they describe it out, but I think it'd be cool to like describe it out and then also kind of like show, because then like me as a kid, like I love that like breakup of words and pictures and stuff like that. So because it is more of like a not young, it's like some routine young adult and kid. So it'd be like that, like middle area where you're like reading books and it'd be something fun that'd be exciting for me and them and things like that, that have a lot of fun ideas that kind of dealt with like loss and Halloween, because it's Halloween based, and then just drawing like cool things that I think are fun, and then just like really weird characters that are the character would run into. But yeah, I always I don't know if that answered your question. I'm just telling you about something else, but I'm always kind of thinking of a different story that like I think is like super cool and fun. And the moment I finish one, I'll think of 6 more. And especially sometimes I'll like draw a character and then I'll build a story, like a full backstory about that guy. Actually, while I was drawing the Epic Adventures of Huggie and Stick, there's a little boy in there, and he's only in it for 2 pages. I think 3 pages. But we don't talk about him other than the fact that like he's the one who loses the stuffed animal and stick. And while I was drawing him, I thought of this whole like backstory about him that like no one will ever know, no one will ever ask. It's just kind of one of those things. I'm like, oh, Reese, Reese lives in a single parent home, and he does all this stuff, and then
oh my goodness,
you sit with these characters for so long, you're coloring them, you're sitting there.
Yeah.
It's like, I think when I worked on that, it was like 5 a.m. and I had to go to work at like 6, and I'm just sitting there,
Oh,
still
wow.
coloring, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this kid, like,
Oh.
you do like a backflip into like all the weird areas that you can go to. So yeah, it's I don't know, it just comes second nature, I guess, when you have that in you, where you're just kind of like always been a storyteller. I'm sure a lot of writers will tell you that, like, everything is kind of like, everything they see is probably like a story in some sort of way, depending on what kind of storyteller I guess they are.
Yeah.
But since I tend to lean on like the children's side, I can kind of like build story around like a tree. You're like, oh, that tree, that's the grumpy tree, and this is the nice one. They've been fighting for years, and they haven't gotten along. Yeah.
That's fun. That's good. That's actually really fun. I love that. So, what is the help me spell this, because it's the part that it gets me crazy. What is it? How do you call?
It's called the Mischief Factory.
Mischief Factory.
Mischief.
I'm probably gonna have to edit this part. I'll be like, forget it. I will not show you people that I don't know how to speak.
No, it's okay. Actually, every time I say mischief to Siri on my iPhone, it never understands me. It's like
that makes me feel better. That makes me feel way better.
And I'm like, that's not what I said. It always reminds me.
They will say like, we don't know where you want to go.
I know. Yeah. So, I mean, the Mischief Factory is basically, I started it as like my branding, essentially, for my illustration. I built it up from being like, instead of just being like a thing that I illustrate and, David Spencer art, I thought it'd be really fun if I could incorporate the thing that I already do, which is create weird characters. So, I created these little monsters I call them Mischievants. And they just basically like, because I always kind of drew this little like Batman style, like monster character. And he would like, I thought it'd be funny if they just kind of interact in the website, or just like as like a thing that I could draw on top. Like I always have these like, if I have a show or something, I can kind of do something with them, or for like Pride Day or something, I can make a rainbow, and just like a thing that I can kind of adjust and to what it like fit in whatever it's doing. Because I think that's really fun to kind of like have this like kind of adjustable character that I can do whatever with. And then I can carry it into other stuff. I just did a chalk walk, and I just drew like, and the monster actually has changed from just being that one to like me just kind of like liking to draw like weird monsters. So I draw like a bunch of different like shaped ones, as opposed to like just the one with different colors. And that just came over time of me, producing more stuff, I guess. But yeah, so it's a fun little like branding element, but it's also just like fun for me because people kind of identify it with me. They'll see it and be like, oh, you're there, like people like local who like see my stuff like everywhere, because I'm like the local artist or whatever who just like jumps into stuff. So it's kind of like a way for them to like feed into what I'm doing already and to see it without particularly knowing who I am.
Right. So if there's an artist listen to us right now, they want to create something, what do you say that is the most valued lesson you have learned as an artist?
My most valued lesson is just do it for yourself pretty much every time, because people will come if they know that it's genuine. So don't even worry about that part. And even if it doesn't sell, if you put everything into it, that you're proud of it, then it doesn't matter anyway. Even if you make a piece of art and you're just like, I love this art, it's so cool, it looks exactly like I wanted it to, it actually looks better than I wanted it to, and then like nobody wants to buy it, or nobody people see it and they don't react to it, or get like 3 likes on Facebook. Don't worry about that. It's just sort of the same. Because I mean, like I have art that I like thought about, that I overthought about, thought was super cool. I posted on Facebook, and then like I'll get like 3 likes, and you're just like, all right, I guess I would. You have to. It's hard to like not devalue yourself after that, but like you just have to go like, it doesn't matter. It's not for you, like because maybe like the people that follow you or whatever are into like something else, or they don't like. That particular character from Star Wars, or maybe they don't even understand that picture that you drew at all, if it's kind of abstract or something like that, or maybe they're not having a red day and there's a lot of red in it. So there's so many factors. I think that applies across the board for like pretty much any kind of art. Like a lot of the times a lot of people will go for very mediocre stuff. So like just across the middle and things like that. So you just kind of have to remember like that maybe people aren't feeling it right now, but like just do it for yourself every time. Because it's so much easier to love it when you love it. And it's so much easier to not care that other people don't like it because you love it, no matter what.
That's so good.
Yeah.
No, that's so great. Absolutely amazing. So if you can dream about anything, David, anything, what do you want to see 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I'd love to just be doing basically just I love doing characters. I love character design. I love drawing them. I love presenting to kids. I love doing all that kind of stuff. So anything that would kind of like meld my love of just like screaming in front of children and being silly, and then also just like creating very like amoebic weird things in front of them. Like I actually just finished up a residency as an artist, so I went in and I was able to just draw all day long, and people came in and they would get to talk to me, and the age ranges of people talking to me went from like, I talked to one guy who was like 60 for like, actually no, I talked to this 90-year-old lady for about an hour and a half, and she was okay. First she came over. I'm sidetracking, sorry. But she came over and she's like, oh, I'm an artist too. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, oh yeah. Like I was engaged in her stuff, but like, I didn't know, like who knows how she draws. So, but she came over, she came back. She's like, I'm going to go get my stuff. And she came back with this little, like actual photographs that like nobody does anymore. But she had this little binder and she pulls it open and she was probably the most amazing watercolor artist I'd ever seen. Like, awesome. I was just like, these are so good. And she was just like, yeah, they're okay. Like she and she did crazy stuff. Like she did watercolors with like the inside of tractor like engines and stuff like that. And then she'd do leaves over top of that. With watercolor, I don't know if you know watercolor, it's very, very fickle. It's very difficult to be good at watercolor.
Oh yeah.
And she was like blowing my mind. To be able to like interact with people, because I'm very social, I'm very loud, I like to talk to people for very long periods of time, so if I could integrate that with art, because art can tend to be very secular, like you sit there by yourself drawing one thing and then or however your art works, but like for the most part you're working on one single thing with no one around. You're kind of in your own space. You're kind of getting your own head together. But I love the like random walkthrough, with kind of purpose, without it being like, oh, that's a nice picture. With like, I can have genuine conversations with people, and then really kind of, if it's, I don't know if it'd be teaching, because I'm not really a good teacher, but I do like talking about it. So like, if they don't need to like really learn anything at the end of the day, I think it might be better. But like, because I just like, I was like talking, so, if you gather stuff from my complete inherent ramblings, that's great. But for the most part, I just, really just like chatting. And I was raised by women, so I just kind of have this like innate to like, tell me more, like about myself. So, I kind of like, I like that about myself.
I think it's really cool because it's a great combination for success.
Yeah.
Is a combination of your crazy talent and you can see and you can draw, but also you're really good about talking with people and engaging. I mean, this is like the best of the both worlds, like combined. That's been the fun part. I mean, I've always kind of been this way, so it helps that it's not something I had to like force into my personality. Like somebody to have to be like, you need to be more social, man. It's just like, hey, maybe back it up a bit. That's funny. So you would say 5 years from now, you want it to be full-time creation. You want it to be mentor people. You want to be doing a podcast. You want to be doing books, like all in a little bit extra.
Yeah. I would say I would love to do children's books, like almost exclusively. Like I love them. They're like so much fun. These little like tales that you can kind of like wrap up like quickly. Like they're just like, and the people they impact is like so perfectly fits into my niche. And just like there's these like they span the globe of like as far as like what they're about. Like sometimes they're about something completely silly. Sometimes they're about something very, very heartfelt, which is like, it hits me right here, right in the heart where I love it. And sometimes they're just like this, jumbling of everything, or they teach a lesson or something like that. I really enjoy that about this specific art form, and it's collaborative. Like there's a lot of people involved that in a good way. Like there's not just one. There's not just two. Sometimes there's you're dealing with art director, a couple agents that have ideas, and like. Despite what people say about agents, they actually have really good ideas. And especially, I mean, in this field, they're really cool about knowing what they like and, where they're at. And my specific agent is really cool because, he kind of talks like me. Like, I can't tell if I make him talk like that or if he already talks like this, but I'm like, hey man, what's up? And he's like, nothing, man, like exclamation point. I can't tell if I'm going.
Tony Robbins says that's the key. Like when you just respond in the same way to the same energy. Yeah. So I guess it's just to study a lot to just like respond to you right back at you.
Yeah, I know. I can't tell if I'm making him dumber or not. But
no, it's just fine. It's just fine. So for the artists there, they want to do the books and they don't know how to find an agent. How do you have to just go through trying so many?
Yeah, I mean, like it can be okay. It's hard to say like the exact way to do it, but the way that I did it was I literally Googled it, children's book agents, and then I wrote all of them down with their contacts on a piece of paper, and I just went da 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 da, and I gathered like enough to like push a bunch. I didn't know where I was going to have to stop, so I just had like a good chunk of them, and then I'd push them all out, and then those would all go away, and then I'd push a bunch out, and I go, just to make sure that you didn't like double up. Make sure that you get all of your things like kind of together as far as what you're going to say. Make sure it's concise. Elevator pitch is a big thing. You need to know who your characters are, and you need to remember that when you're telling the story, that they don't know everything that you do. So if you know that he like that your main character has blonde hair and that they're kind of a shy type, you need to kind of convey that without being too wordy, because they go through a lot. And even if it doesn't get picked, try not to take it to heart too much, because maybe it's not the day for that. Maybe if it's a story about a fox, maybe foxes aren't in season right now. Maybe they're just like people aren't feeling foxes anymore. They're more on a squirrel mood. So it really, a lot of the times it doesn't have anything to do with your story. It's just about timing. I mean, I got really lucky because I got an agent with a guy who I just happened to email and almost didn't. And then I did. And we ended up hitting it off really well. And he was awesome for me and, got me this awesome, opportunity to write for this huge children's book author. So it was just so cool to like kind of see these little steps. And like, if I would have missed one, it would have been like, I would have got my footing would be different. So, and it can be discouraging because you're like, if I didn't do this one step, where would I be right now? But what I would be doing? I would still be creating. So it didn't matter.
Yes, you're right. I love that. I love that you said that. If it didn't work, I'll still be creating anyway. And something else had to show up at your doorstep.
Yeah. Cause I always end up doing stuff that I never expected. Like I never expected to do what Regency is. I never expected to have my own gallery show. Like, cause I'm just some guy who drew while my wife watched the show Scandal. And I was drawing elephants with balloons in their hand floating. So it's just like, I go from that to having a gallery show. It's like, what, like, you met me, right? But yeah, somebody just like came to my house. They're like, you need to apply to this. I'm like, all right. And then she's like, no, seriously, I'm not leaving until you apply. And I'm like, okay. So sometimes, like the thing with artists, we tend to be procrastinators for the most part, is just to like, it's good to have people in your corner. And if you are out there enough, people will always be in your corner, even if you don't know that they'll do, or don't expect them to do it. They'll be like, oh my God, you got to check this guy's art out. Yes. And I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, why are you doing this? Like, that's so cool. There's so many people who are there just like ready to go to bat. They'll be like, right out of the park. And they'll be like, this guy's awesome. You should totally, or they'll just be like in random conversation. Have you seen this? Let me pull this up. And it's really cool to kind of see people do that for you for no reason.
Right.
Like, they don't have to do that. They don't need to do that. They want to do it because it's fun for them. And they like to be part of this thing that's happening and things like that. So, it's really fun. Like I didn't expect to doing family portraits like at any point. I didn't expect to doing children's books at any point. I didn't expect to be even like anybody be taking me seriously at any point. Like, so, I mean, it's to hear people like, oh, this is my favorite illustrator. I'm like, you mean that guy? And they're like, no, I mean you. I'm like, oh, cool. So that's fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's fun. It's very gratifying to be
Oh, wow.
in the pocket.
Yeah, and you're really busy. You have a lot of work right now. A lot of really, really busy, right?
Yeah, I'm always doing, like, I'm slowly trying to work down my list. It's usually like somebody will come up and be like, hey, can you give me something in 2 weeks? I'm like, no. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's amazing.
No, it's nice though. The good thing is I don't really have to try super hard anymore. I don't have to like really put myself out there. It kind of comes to me a little easier, so I can just be like, oh yeah, sure, and then I won't put it out because I don't want it to get too overwhelming, and then like they'll just kind of come naturally, so I don't have to. I just kind of go, okay, like I have a thing, like always be kept busy by something. So
that's incredible. That's really awesome. So what is your favorite book? Do you read business book or anything like that?
I don't read anything that's like self-helpy at all. Like
self-helpy.
Is that a bad word for it? I don't know if that's like
oh gosh, it's funny.
Yeah, I do listen. I listen to podcasts that like are kind of that way, but I really only listen to the one the Don't Keep Your Day Job with Kathleen Hiller. And I really like that one because they have, like all kinds of different ones. But for the most part, I just listen to like, I'm really into like murder podcasts and like murder stuff. So like, because that stuff, like, it's like exciting for me. It's like, there's like mystery and there's like weird people involved.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's actually funny if I think about the contrast of what I listened to while I was making the children's book versus like what the children's book was about. It was just like all this like crazy, like, let's hear more about Jack the Ripper, but I'd be like drawing this really, really cute panda.
Sweet little, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So, but my favorite book is for sure, like it's Harry Potter, but it's only because I don't have, I love it. It's great. And there's a lot of people who do love it, but I don't really have a lot of time to like sit there and read.
Yeah.
Like if I do, I've been trying to get better at absorbing books because I feel like I should at this point. And I've been listening to this girl, V. Schwab. She has like all these kind of weird novels. And right now I'm listening to a Darker Shade of Magic. And so it's like a mix of other stuff. So I follow her on Twitter first, and I was like, oh, does she do books? So I started listening to her listening to her books on audio because I thought that'd be like something I could kind of get into, because the problem is I have zero time to read.
Right.
Imagine with a full-time job and kids, and then trying to get art done. I don't have a lot of time to sit there with my coffee and be like, this is a nice book. So
I know it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like you don't even have a day off. Like
I know, because when I do have time off, I'm usually like thinking about other stuff, or I'm just trying to be like, I'm trying to do the
present.
Dad. So I'm like, hey, what and my daughter doesn't really let me forget that I'm her dad. She's like, Dad, come here. I'm like, wait, what do you need? Yeah. Every time I get in the pool, it's always like, Dad, throw me. Like, okay, get Daddy a break.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. So do you have a quote that you live by? Something that
yes, it's I always kind of think of this because I'm always trying to get like I said, I'm always kind of doing the dad thing. So I always say, let the wild rumpus start. It's from Where the Wild Things Are. It's just a cool, like, it's almost like a driving force phrase where you're just like, let the wild rumpus start. So as far as quotes go, like I don't dig into a lot, but like there'll be little ones that like make sense for what I do.
Yeah.
My usual quote is just like, get into it. I use that for my business, and it's been that phrase because I used to say it on like Facebook post. I used to end it with "get into it" because it'd be this like really fun idea that'd be kind of like silly, and I'm like, don't think of it weird. It's really fun, actually. Get into it, because like I just felt like people like naysay a lot of stuff, and I'm just like, don't, just have fun with it, get into it. And then it made sense for the Mischief Factory because you get into mischief, like you actually go out and you cause, like, get into trouble, like go do the thing, because you think about a little kid doing finger paints on the wall. It's like, yeah, sure, they're ruining your wall, but they're also like creating their own version of art. So
That's wonderful. So where can people find you, David?
They can find me at mischieffactory.com. There's a mischief-factory.com is like my hub for my website. And then anything outside of that, they can find me at, I'm at Mischief Factory on Twitter. There's a Mischief Factory Facebook page. I'm on Instagram. at Mischief Factory. If you put in Mischief Factory, it's like me in a dubstep song. So I'm not the dubstep song.
That's funny. Thank you for letting us know.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I just want to say it was so much fun to be able to talk to you.
Absolutely.
You have so much joy. I'm excited. I'm telling you, it's overflowing. It's so much fun. Just crazy. You try. I think you can definitely, you're going to, as the time go, I can see you as truly a mentor in that field of booking illustration because you're having so much experience with that, but it's so much more and then so much joy that you bring to everybody. So thank you for being so generous of being here and and sharing your joy at Jump.
Hey, that's all I'm here for. If I'm good for nothing, it's a laugh.
That's right. Thank you so much, David. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Jump, you're ready now. Jump, the sky's the limit. Jump.